空寂。Fill the Sangha Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo saranto sucedoye olahudi samyao samputoshe. Wu shang shen shen wei miao fa, bai qian wan jie nan zhao yu. Wo jin jian wen de shou chi, yuan jie ru lai zhen shi yi. The unsurpassed, deep, profound, subtle, wonderful Dharma in hundreds of thousands of millions of eons is difficult to encounter. Now that I've come to receive and hold it within my sight and hearing, I vow to fathom the thus come one's true and actual meaning. Venerable Master, Dharma friend, would you sit down, please? Sit, please. 师父上人, 各位师兄, 大家阿弥陀佛, Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our sutra lecture this evening. And we're going to start, as we always do, with the name of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas here on the cover. Please join me. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan 天还会佛菩萨。It's Saturday night. It's the 15th of November, middle of the month. We're here in Berkeley, California, and we're looking into the Garland Sutra's 6th ground out of the 10 grounds. So please, if you will, turn to page 12 and 13. If anybody's interested in a Vietnamese translation, we have a translation upstairs in the balcony. Welcome to the folks who are joining us online from wherever you might be behind your computer monitor. Jerry, you might want to turn off that hand mic to save the battery. There you go. Okay, we're at the very top of the page. We'll start with the Chinese and then do the English. 复作是念，若有作者，只有作事；若无作者，亦无作事。第一义中，俱不可得。Okay, over on the right, together, let's read in unison. Then he thinks, if indeed there were a doer of deeds, then there would be something done. If there were no doer, then there would be nothing done. And then, amid the primary meaning, there would be nothing at all to get. Right. We're looking into the teaching of emptiness. This is the fundamental doctrine of the Buddha after meditation. There's, depending on where you look at it, there are lots of fundamental doctrines of the Buddha. If you look at the early agamas, the Pali teaching, some people would say that whole period was the fundamental teaching of the Buddha. Well, absolutely right. If you look at the nearly at the end of the Buddha's teaching, where the prajna teachings, the emptiness dharma came forth, someone would also say that indeed is what makes the Buddha's teaching unique. And he talked about that for 21 years. So it's at the end, but it's the basis of it. So it really doesn't work, I think, to say which is the basic, which is the first, because it's very much like food. If you are someone who really likes salty food and somebody tells you to eat sweet, you're not going to be satisfied. And the opposite is true. If you have a sweet tooth and somebody salts your food, you won't feel like it hits the spot until it's sweet. So the Buddha taught Dharma like medicine. Depending on what illness you have, that's the one you like. That's the one that cures your dis-ease and puts you back at ease. So this is the particular teaching of a bodhisattva. Bodhisattvas are these awakened beings. And the entire sutra that we're looking at is all about bodhisattvas. And it's about these awakened beings. And what they woke up to, what makes them different and awakened, is that they understand this term that we have in our first paragraph tonight, which is D-E-E, D-E-E, truth in the primary meaning, primary fundamental truth. It's number one meaning, basic meaning, which is what? That's that the self doesn't exist. Parentheses, in the way we normally think about it. Okay? I read a great comment by a reviewer. This was a writer, and it was a reviewer of others' writings. And he said, there are 10,000 stories, but only one plot. And that plot boils down to things are not what they seem. Things are not what they seem. That's what keeps you turning the pages. That's what keeps you there in your seat through the second and third act. You realize, oh, there's more than meets the eye. Things are not what they seem. That's the only plot. No matter what kind of story you're reading, that's what keeps you looking. And the author, bit by bit, peels the layers of the onion, so you get down to the core, and it's empty. So that's what the Buddha has done here. He's peeled the layers of the onion back. I don't know if we don't peel onions here at the monastery. That's truth in the primary meaning, right? We don't nor garlic either, right? So, but if you did, you could think back to the time when you peeled an onion, and if you peel, you get to the center, and there's this nothing there. It's the way the onion grows, and the self is the same way. You peel back your, let's say, if you were raised in a traditional family, you probably had a baby name. In Chinese, you might have been called Bao Bao, or you might have been called Tian Tian, or in Spanish families, they put an ito at the end of your name. In my father's homeland of Quebec, French Canada, they put the petit in front of it, so it's Dijon, Petit Jean, Little John, Dijon, right? François, like that. So that's the name you had until probably you went to high school and you didn't want that baby name anymore, right? Your name changed. Then if you were a woman and you married in a traditional family, you lost your surname entirely. Which one is true? Peel the layer back. And you go, well, it was true at the time, but it's no longer true. Well, if it was true then, how can it be untrue suddenly, right? In other words, what is not what it seems. The names are not what they seem. So the Buddha here is telling us that who we are is not what it seems. Truth in the primary sense goes beyond the surface, goes deeper than what meets the eyes and the ears, into something more fundamental. And this entire chapter, the sixth ground here, is fundamental. This is really basic wisdom from the Buddha's point of view. And what makes these sutras so interesting and why this is worthwhile is, as when we pick these up, we get to look through the Buddha's eyes for a short time at more than meets my eye, because I'm still here with consciousness, which is kind of limited. So the Buddha's vision is not limited, kind of on edge, not happy, things are getting to you. Is that you? Not really you. Well, who's the real you? Peel back a layer, right? So the Buddha here is going through all the layers and saying, fundamentally, you know what there is? Conditions. 缘起性空. Right? It's made of conditions, but by nature, there's nothing there. What does it say? It says, 复作是念. The Bodhisattva thinks, takes us right into the heart of the Bodhisattva, 复作是念. The Bodhisattva thinks, 若有作者. Suppose there was somebody who did things. In other words, karma. Suppose there was a doer of deeds. If there were, 自由做事. In that case, there would be things that were done. Sounds simple, sounds true. If there were a doer, there'd be deeds, right? 若无作者. If there were no doer, however, in the midst of everything that we do, 一无作事, there would be nothing done. So, think that one through. 第一中居不可得. In truth, within truth and the primary meaning, there is absolutely nothing to get. You're never going to find the me or the mine. The doer and the deeds both do not exist from the Buddha's wisdom. Okay, now we're going to stop. Wait. Okay. Put that out in the field of pragmatic philosophy, If you just put that on the face of it and try to argue that, you're going to go down in the debate. That's a hard one to defend, isn't it? Why? Because it makes no sense. That makes no sense. That's silly. There are no deeds and there's no doers. Well, if that's true, then go drive down the left side of the highway. No, I didn't say that. Don't say, the Dharma Master told us to drive down. No, didn't. So if that's if that were true, then you didn't eat lunch today, right? And I ate lunch today. So how could this be true? How could it be the case that there's no deeds and there's no doer? The Buddha is saying, Di yi zhong, within truth in the primary sense, within the true meaning, from his point of view, the way he sees it there, who was ready to hear this, and the Buddha spoke this like medicine too, for an illness. These were beings who, men and women, non-humans, like to say devas or bodhisattvas, who already had a level of meditative stillness. They already had samadhi. They could ru ding, as they say. They could already enter samadhi. So for them to hear this description completely made sense. It was their experience. They'd already experienced this in their stillness. So how about me? If I'm not a bodhisattva, if I'm not a Brahma, heaven, deva, then what about me? Then, well, when I sit still, sometimes, if I'm really sitting still long enough, I get a little sense that my eyes, my ears, my nose, my tongue, my body, and most of all my mind are not ultimate. That they can go really quiet. And there's actually a place where they arise. There's a place where they no longer arise. That's a great discovery. But it doesn't come cheap. There's no bargain way to see that. You actually have to sit still. You have to sit still. Okay, that's the meditative state. What else do I know about my mind? Well, I know that I can get into an emotional state that just won't let me be. It gives me no peace at all. My mind can get into a state where it drives me nuts. Just have these thoughts keep rising and coming up and coming up. Or somebody will insult me, and I'll think, how could he say that? They couldn't say that. I gotta say that back. They don't let me say that. I really should have stuck for myself. I think next chance I'm going to tell him. You know, in there, nagging. Right? My mind can do that to me. Well, other times it doesn't do that. What is that? What is my mind? It's not what I think, right? I'm not at that point. Then sometimes it's just so quiet, so calm. You feel like you're right in the middle, right where you belong. Balanced, harmony, peaceful, at ease. You know, the Chinese say, 自在. You're completely in a kind of self-mastery, sense of mastery and ease. So, what's that all about? How does it come and go like that? It's definitely not what it seems. So, the Buddha says, right, we're still in R-E. We're in duality, the second meaning, not Di-yi zhong. Not truth in the primary sense. Truth in the primary sense is that fundamentally that duality is made by the mind. Samadhi is also made by the mind, but you have to make it. You have to actually work hard, but you can't. That's the point. So, when I explain it that way, that allows this to be the Buddha's insight, and we can appreciate that without having to say what? True, false. We don't have to judge. We don't have to judge this. If we explain it this way, where are we? We say, there's more to learn. I have more to learn. And that's a healthy perspective, right? If I have to explain this because I'm not doing my job if I don't tell you exactly what's going on here, I'm stuck. because clearly this is not my state. This is not my state. But that doesn't take it away from being the Buddha's state. And the promise of the sutra is anybody who cultivates can have it be your state. All right? This ability to get beyond the mind's right, wrong, yes, no, day, night, true, false, judgmental, is available to anybody who meditates. So that's the way this works. The other way to think of it is the Buddha's teaching career spanned 49 years. Our particular historical Buddha taught in India for 49 years. And as in the lifespan of Buddhas, that's pretty short. There are some Buddhas, they say, that live a lot longer, even thousands of years, eons, and teach great spans of time. Maitreya, the next Buddha to come, they say, 3 days and 3 nights. Better get your ticket now. Get your reservation. You want to be there. So Buddhas teach for different lifespans. Our Buddha taught for 49 years. In those 49 years, he taught a whole variety of teachings. The things he taught at the beginning, he didn't teach at the end. Vice versa. So, for 21 years of that 49, he talked about this teaching of emptiness and how conditions create all things that we meet. Our world, our bodies, our minds. There you go. So, he says, what? Okay, that's kind of my contextualizing, that's putting the bookends around this so we get a sense of it. He says, if there was no doer, if there was no deed, there'd be nothing to get. Everything would be just fine. However, not the case. So, 佛子此菩萨摩诃萨复作是念三界所有唯是一心，如来于此分别演说12有之，亦皆亦一心，如是而立，何以故? Disciples of the Buddha, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva then thinks, everything whatsoever in the threefold realms is only a single thought. The Tathagata extrapolates this one thought into 12 distinct branches, each of which depends entirely upon the other, entirely upon that one thought for its existence. Why is it so? Okay, we lectured this 2 weeks ago. We're going to take a long breath and go through. He introduces at this point, I Xin, one mind, single mind, only one thought needed to create everything, but within that one thought, 12 steps. Here they're called Zhi, branches. 12 steps within that single thought. The Buddha's peeling this onion back and saying, right, it's empty. However, before we know it's empty, guess what? Everything we do pulls the next condition forward, starts with ignorance, ends with suffering, and in between there's 12 steps that happen, 12 links. Very much like a watch. Anybody ever open a watch? Any watchmakers here? Yeah? Yes? No? Anybody have like a watch with a visible back? You can look inside and see the... No? No? Yeah. Watchmaking is very cool. People who get in there, there's some incredible skills. The Swiss have it, the Japanese have it, French, German, some. And you have these incredibly precise, tiny things. You have a loop and magnifiers. And you can get it so it just makes these tiny little movements. And yet, watches can last forever, Some get power from quartz crystals. Some get power from the sun, and they keep this precise, incredible movement, layers and layers of things. So the Buddha's saying, yep, here it is. You've got the watch. It's in a single thought, and everything comes out of it. How powerful is your mind, he says. Here we go. Ready? Dive into it. He says, 随是谈欲与心共生，心是事，事是行，与行 迷惑是无明. Because thoughts and desires arise together with the deeds that are done. Thoughts are consciousness. Deeds are activities. Confusion about those activities is ignorance. Here's where it starts. We do things and we don't know why. We're covered over with ignorance, and greed and desire are in there, arising with these deeds. If only we could be still, it'd be okay. If only. But in darkness, you get hungry, you want to move, you feel stirrings of desire, you want to move, things are done. That first movement pulls along everything else. Okay, what does he say? Let's go down here. 于无明即心共生是名色. Name and form arise together with ignorance and thoughts. 名色增长是六处. When name and form grow, they create the 6 places. 6 places are the 6 sense organs. They arise with name and form. So, funny. Is it the world that creates the senses? Is it the senses that create the world? Gongshang, they arise together. This all happens so fast. We think of it as a line, linking. In fact, it all arises together. Each one links in different directions. It's very much like fabric. So you tug one, and it all tugs together. Okay? What else here? 六处三分合为处，公生是受，受无言祖是爱. When name and form grow, they create the 6 places. The 6 places, 3 divisions combine to create contact. Contact then brings forth feeling. When feeling becomes insatiable, love is the result. All right. So what are the 3 divisions of the 6 senses? It's what are called 18 realms. And we're going at warp speed through this experience that is so important because it creates reality for us. Here's the idea. Psychology I'm predicting that there will be courses on Buddhist psychology taught in universities. It turned out to be a class on cognitive dissonance. That was all he wanted us to learn, because the professor had written the book on cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is fascinating, but it's like this tiny brick in an entire wall. I was interested in the mind and what I could learn about humanity, and he was teaching cognitive dissonance. It was great, but it was sure limiting, you know. People who come to psychology often discover, if they're learning from a Freudian traditional or history of psychotherapy, psychoanalysis, that the mind has specific pathologies, including what? Including, well, you know, schizophrenia, paranoia. There's things like psychosis, neurosis, and the mind is a pretty sick place from this point of view. And the talking cure is the way out of it. And it all traces back to early life, you know, complexes that we got mostly from our treatment with our parents. So, treatment by our parents. So, that's pretty much the story. And if you want to get advanced degrees in psychology, you wind up taking classes in statistics and demographics, and you do studies on certain populations. And it rarely does it bring you back to the healthy human mind. My college roommate, when I was at Cal, was a PhD candidate, psychology. He went through, Bob got his doctorate, but he took community in Marin County, learning statistical methodologies, and counted populations who exhibited these behaviors and said, boring, lifeless. He nearly quit. He didn't quit. He got his doctorate and went on to do what? What was his practice? Hypnosis. He gave up on the talking cure after a while because he got better results with hypnosis. And this is a frontline Western shrink, you know, here in Berkeley practicing. Major guy. So, anyway, my point is to say that when these meditators, my roommate included, come and sit down, and the Buddha says, you will notice here that everything that rises in the mind ceases in the mind. Simply observe your thoughts rising, falling, and you can ask yourself, who's watching? He didn't want to deal with statistics and rats, but that's where anyway, so I think anybody who went past their freshman psychology course will probably relate to what I'm saying. Anyway, so in Berkeley, all these folks come to meditate night after night, month after month, year after year. There are people on Thursday nights here who have come to this room for 19 years since that group first came. Why? They love to watch their mind find a healthy paradigm. It's just what the Buddha described. And here he is in our text. This is a psychology textbook, but in a profoundly pragmatic, mechanical way. He's saying, watch how these things link. This is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. Right here. This is what we're learning. Right? What does he say? He says, 爱舍不舍是取，彼诸有之，胜是有，有所起名生，生熟为老，老坏为死。When feeling becomes insatiable, love is the result. Love holds on and doesn't let go till there's grasping. The branch of existence creates existence. Then birth comes from existence. When birth ripens, it ages. When age goes bad, it creates death. That's how it works. It goes just that way. So, anybody care? Well, wait till someone dies. We care. We care, right? Lots of suffering at the time of parting. And the Buddha is saying, yes, that's completely natural. Here's why it happens. Not judgment, not bad, saying, this is what happens. This is cold, clinical description. All right, I've made that point week after week. I think you're fully convinced, I hope, that this is what's going on. And I just want to make one comment that this is the Buddhist version of a sacred text. How do you approach sacred texts as you were growing up? How did you? What did your parents show you? We had a family Bible. Our family Bible was on the coffee table in the living room, and it actually had my parents' names embossed on the cover. They had had given it to them when they were married. This is your Bible. This is that you're going to have this your whole life, right? Deborah and James, and there it was. And I always knew where it was. Didn't open it much, right? I remember opening it a couple times because it had really nice paper, gold edging on the binding was the pages were gold, and red. It had beautiful leather cover, and it had a feeling of sacredness to it. It was a special book. It wasn't a newspaper. It wasn't a magazine. This was a book to keep. And when you opened it up, it had a Bible paper, had a certain quality to it. To take the next step into it, where it became a guide for my life, was not something I ever did. And mind you, there are millions of billions of people around the world who have. The Bible serves that purpose as a sacred text, as a guide, as an anchor, as a refuge for people. But my looks into it, every time I opened it up, I would get something that read more like history. Stories of a tribe wandering and what they encountered, and so-and-so begat so-and-so, births, family lineages, and then the New Testament was different people's stories of Jesus and the life of Jesus. And there were different stories, and because it's ancient, it's, let's say, 2,000 years old, older, newer, depending on who you read. So, sacred text. Does this qualify? Is this a sacred text? It's a Buddhist, yes it is. It's a Buddhist sacred text. These are the words of the Buddha, older than the Bible by 500 years, you might say, if you lose contemporary records. But look what it is, right? It's alive. This is not a story of a tribe. This is no history here. On the other hand, you could say it's the fundamental history of humanity. What's going on inside this text? It's a watch. If your life were a watch, the Buddha's gone, pop the back off the watch, right? He's taken the tool and gone, off comes the back, and you see the of your life. 12 links tugging each other forward all the way through to death and suffering and birth again. Ignorance covering all of it. How interesting. It's a living sacred text. Different approach to sacred text. And one that I really like, because if we were to see this the way I think it actually stands, it would be as common as something we don't have anymore. When was the last time you got a phone book? Anybody still get phone books delivered? Like Ma Bell growing up? You still do? I don't know. They haven't delivered phone books here for a very long time. Which is nice. We don't have to throw them out. So we used to have stacks of phone books. We haven't gotten a phone book in a very long time. So I guess I won't advertise for the company anyway. This book is as public domain, Creative Commons as a phone book. It should be there so everybody can refer to it. What's going on? Why am I having this feeling? Oh, the Buddha showed, yes, that's the link. That's the problem, right? That's what it would be. Speaking of Bibles as holy books, I want you all to know that if you go to Tiantaishan in Zhejiang province, or Jiangsu province in China, and if you go to Guoqing Monastery, you go to the Guoqing Hotel, and you open the drawer by your bed in your hotel room. What's in the drawer? The Bible? No, the Lotus Sutra. I just thought you should know that. It's not the Bible, it's the Lotus Sutra. There is one hotel in the world where the Gideon Bible, you could probably request a Bible if you wanted one, but it's not the case you go to the Hilton in Shanghai and ask for the Lotus Sutra and they'll give one. Probably not. Okay, so we got a sense of what this is. Launch into tonight's text. Here's tonight's text. 佛子此中无名，有二种业：一令众生迷于所缘，二与恒作生起因。Disciples of the Buddha, there are two kinds of karma created by ignorance. The first kind confuses living beings about what is conditioned, and the second provides the cause for the arising of activities. Okay. Ignorance. This thing called ignorance, which if you had to know what it meant, it means, I don't know. It's dark out. It's dark. Ignorance is no light. Wu Ming. Avidya in Sanskrit. No light. So in the midst of ignorance, we don't know. That's what Master Hua would always say. He'd say, what is ignorance? 不知道. He would say, I don't know. Why? It's dark. Can't see. That's our state before we wake up. The Buddha is not in ignorance. That's what's different between me and the Buddha, among other things, is he has Ming, I have Wu Ming, no light. He's got light. Okay? Two kinds of karma created by ignorance. The Buddha says, what about ignorance? It has two things that happen. One is, in the dark we do things, and we're confused about it. We do things in the dark and we're confused about it. So, somebody pins you down. Why did you do it? The answer is, I really don't know. Somebody, if you're really honest, the devil made me do it. Right? That was always an excuse. The devil made me do it. It wasn't my fault. It was the devil. Oh, in that case, say 2 Hail Marys and 3 Our Fathers and your sins are absolved, my boy. So, because it wasn't your fault. Well, that works. That works. At least you don't have to carry that one around. The Buddha would say, oh, well, then look in the mirror because you're looking at the devil. Right? You did it. You take responsibility. But in the darkness, we don't know. We're confused about who did it. Why did I have to go for it? I can't believe I ate the whole thing. Right? That's this principle. I can't believe I ate the whole thing. I'll remember when that was, okay, name the product that was the tagline for. You have to be a certain age. David, you remember? I can't believe I ate the whole thing. What was the product? Big hunk? No. It's a medicine. I'll give you a clue. What was it? You guys are all too young. What was it? Nah, you just had to watch TV. I can't believe I ate the whole thing. What was it? Alan, don't remember? Alka-Seltzer. Does anybody ever use Alka-Seltzer? Is it still around? Is it still made? Yes. Alka-Seltzer? Okay. It was a brilliant ad because everybody who saw it for the first and second and third time laughed. At the fourth and 10th time, it wasn't so much fun, but it was this big guy, and he looked right at the camera and he went, burp, and he held up a pizza box, an empty pizza box. I can't believe I ate the whole thing. Then the next scene was a glass and 2 Alka-Seltzer, and they fizz, right? Because everybody's had that moment where you have a stomach ache and 2 Alka-Seltzer tablets in the glass, fizz, right? Brilliant ad. And that overnight, everybody was saying, I can't believe I ate the whole thing. Meaning, what? I was confused about what is conditioned. In other words, I don't know why I did it. I can't believe I did it. I can't believe you guys didn't hear that before. Okay, so now you can borrow my line. Maybe it's ready to recycle. I can't believe I ate the whole... The devil made me do it, right? Wasn't my fault. Can't believe I ate the whole thing. In other words, greed took over. You couldn't stop. Okay, what's another one? Here you go. Advertising is so good with these. Ready? Name that product. Bet you can't eat just one. Fritos corn chips. Was it? Somebody who's got your Google open? Don't tell me if you do. Secretly down below your bench here. Right? Bet you can't eat just one, I believe was Fritos. So yeah, you can't. Why? I don't know. In ignorance, I was confused about what was conditioned. In other words, what arose. It's 就说迷于所缘. I'm confused about what pulled on, what linked. Okay? Another brilliant advertising jingle. Bet you can't eat just one. That's really catchy. Whoever coined that phrase got a raise, definitely. Probably went from junior executive up to the front office, right? Brilliant phrase. Bet you can't eat just one. Because we've all said that. And it's true. And you remember, I want more. Buy some more. Take out your money. Buy some more. Brilliant advertising. Why? Greed. In darkness and ignorance, we don't know why, but we just keep... Right? So, yeah. We're confused about it. Well, ho. Then we discover that food companies did research and probably hired, UC Berkeley grads in the chemistry lab. Discover that, in fact, you can put products in foods that trigger dopamine responses just like drugs. And the body really wants, right? MSG is one of those products that once it starts to oxidize, we get that buzz, and we want that buzz, not knowing that it's actually cancer-causing. So there was an awareness of that. Chinese food syndrome, remember? There was, how long ago was that they started paying attention to MSG? 味全多久了? When did restaurants stop putting in MSG into the food? When was it? Yeah, it was the 90s, right? Are you telling me your restaurant still puts MSG in your food? Don't go there. Really, there was a time when restaurant menus all said no MSG. You guys are all so young, you can't remember that. My goodness, okay. So before that, I remember these pictures of Chinese, elderly Chinese men stumbling out of restaurants in Chinatown, New York, San Francisco, because they'd eaten there every day and they'd absorbed so much MSG that their bodies were suffering from too much monosodium glutamate, 味全, right? 味の素でしょ。味の素はダメね。食べないよ。So, 味の素, not so good. 味全. That's right, right? 味全什么？味精不是味全，味全是 brand name. 味精 right? 味精. Yes, Laura. Say it again. Certain chips have what? No, don't tell me. I can't eat them anymore? Oh my God. Read the label. I refuse. If you are a label reader, please read the label after lunch, all right? But don't get there. There's a certain kind of Dharma protector who candy, take it off. You were going to eat that, Yeah, I was. You took it off my spoon, relax. Truly, there are people who just love to find that there's something wrong in that food. Take it away. I've had half my lunch disappear, when people come. They save me from eating like egg white, or something like that. So, good intention. Wholesome Dharma protection. So in ignorance, we don't know. It's I felt something. Second kind of karma is you think about before, mostly you just react. That's hung. And it's there's a phrase, a formula. There's a formula that Shifu used to give us, which was so helpful. He would say, 起惑造业受果报. It's translated word for word, which is delusion arises. We create karmically powerful behaviors, and the retribution comes. Right? In the dark, we do stuff, comes the reaction. Okay, you can fill in the blanks. You get the idea, right? But the first step is 起惑. Because we don't know, because we're in the dark, because we don't understand 起惑. There's this ignorance, there's this covering. Then, instinctually, usually, 造业, we do things that we regret, 受果报. And the retribution comes. So, what do they say? There's another great phrase. The Chinese Mahayana has this whole collection of wonderful phrases that you can get a real sense of the teachings distilled down to the essence when you hear these. And Shifu was great at giving giving us this whole arsenal, this whole, archive of these sometimes 4-character phrases, sometimes more. But I've often thought, I don't know, maybe the younger generation, maybe Jinfo or Jinchuan, maybe you guys can go through and just make a big long list of the 4-character phrases. But that's one of them. It's not 4, but it's one of those great aphorisms. They're wisdom distilled down to an essence. 起或造业受果报. What's another one? 菩萨为因不为果，众生为果不为因. The Bodhisattva is really, really careful at the stage of planting the seeds down. But he's not afraid at all of the retribution. Ordinary living beings, us, we're totally careless when it comes time to plant the seeds, but we're super upset about what's going to happen, about the retribution. Okay, so that phrase talks about the difference between bodhisattvas and us, ordinary people. Because the bodhisattva believes totally in cause and effect, knows it's true, therefore she is really careful when it comes to plant the seeds. They're very careful at this point where ignorance goes to activity. They don't simply react when the thought rises. They think about it 3 times. Because why? They know once it's planted, it's definitely going to happen. Okay? Living beings don't believe in cause and effect, have no sense of awareness of how things actually work. So they, in the dark, go ahead and, run amok. Oh, 1 beer was good, 3 must be better, right? Right? Let's see how fast this car really can go. Seatbelts, what a drag. Who's got time for seatbelts? And this, I guess 1 toke won't hurt. All the things that we, what do we say? We have in the West, we have an equal number of phrases. Sadder but wiser, right? Famous last words, right? The famous last words school of cause and effect. So the Bodhisattva is really careful at that point. Ordinary living beings like us, we go with our thought, and then, sorry, we did that. Okay, that's right here. Those phrases in Chinese are so fine. It's the Tian Tai Jiao Guan has this long list of phrases that code in, distill down to the essence, all this wisdom. So, here it is. 行亦有2种业. Activities, the Buddha is saying, look at it, it's got a bunch of functions in it. It's not so simple. There's more than meets the eye. One is that behavior will definitely cause retribution. You insult somebody's mama, you got a fist coming. Yo mama, right? Oh, who's going to hear that? Everybody is going to react if you insult their mama. Yo mama, blah, blah. So there's a whole list of yo mama jokes, right? So, and 2 is it's active in horizontally, which is it pulls along number 3. It pulls along number 3. It's able to bring consciousness into being. Consciousness is that 3rd link. Consciousness is, before, didn't exist independently. It was just kind of free-floating energy. Now there's an action which was born of ignorance in the dark. You don't know why you did it, but you did it. And sure enough, there's an awareness. What is consciousness? It can tell the difference. Consciousness goes yes, no, right, wrong. It's red, no, it's not, it's green. It's fast, no, it's not, it's slow. It's friend, no, it's not, it's enemy. Consciousness's function is to act in those 18 realms that the psychologists love. Say, okay, here's sense organ. sense object, consciousness tells the difference. Then you can go through eyes, how they discriminate, right? Light from dark. Ears, how they discriminate, high from low. Nose discriminates pungent from fragrant, right? Tongue can tell different flavors. Skin can tell smooth from rough, heavy from light. Mind can tell in many directions. And they all function to discriminate. So consciousness arises here, primal consciousness, awareness of itself as an entity. Why? It did something. That's our third link. I mean, this is so good. It's so rich because our lives pass in the chemistry of this interaction. And if I could describe it like a hologram, people know about holograms. Holograms are this wonderful illustration of what the Buddha is describing. A hologram is a way of projecting light that in the controlled space where the hologram is doing its thing, it looks like an object has the third dimension. It looks like it has depth. Okay, it's 3D. Okay, when you went to a 3D movie, the last 3D movie, you put those glasses on, and it seems like objects have come off the screen, and they're interacting right in front of you, in the air in front of you. That's hologram-style projection. Okay, this is related. So if you could see what the Buddha is describing in a hologram, at this point, there would be action. There would be this, it comes into being. It kind of materializes out of nowhere. This consciousness arises because something happened. Something happened. Okay. Let's slow down here and digest some of this. People ask me, what did I get out of being silent for 6 years? In my early formation as a monk, I didn't talk for 6 years. From 1977 May until, I guess it was 1980, 1983, 1984. And what people say when they hear that is, what was the first thing you said? Right? And I honestly don't remember, but I know it was an attempt to be pure Dharma, nothing casual. How boring, how stiff. So, what did I get out of it? People say, what happened? And honestly, what I got out of it was an awareness that my mind is wired to lie, which is sobering because it's not very elegant and it's certainly not very noble. What I discovered by closing my mouth and actually giving myself the rule that I'm not going to speak was I got to witness everything that happens in my mind before the word comes out. Because that didn't stop. I just didn't say the word, right? What I discovered is that in everyday experience, part of being a human is we communicate. Some people will tell you that this power of speech is one of humanity's most unique. Now, whales speak, birds speak. My friend Al Petaway sent a video onto Facebook this morning of his dog, Buki. Al has this beautiful shepherd collie mix called Buki. Buki's a wonderful human-based dog, a loving dog. And Buki, this morning, Al had his camera running. Buki wanted to talk. And he's going... for 28 seconds, and he says these sentences. It's an entire enunciation, and his tail, he's got this beautiful bushy, his tail is going like this all the time, and when he finishes, he shakes his head at the end of the sentence. And I could probably show it to you later. It's really cute. Clearly, Buki's trying to communicate in speech, but he's talking with his tail, doing this, which is happy dog, and he moves his body. He's using, woof, tail, and body to communicate. Probably he's saying, feed me. It may be, nothing more elegant than that. But it's in his mind to communicate to that human standing there with a camera something that he wants, right? So what I discovered was that when I have this impulse to speak, you would think that it would go, thought moves, word emerges. If you're, quote, normal, that should be it. Straight. 直言直行, right? Straight words, straight behavior, straight actions. 直心, straight mind. That's the way it should be. Mine didn't do that. Mine goes, and the is checking to see who's listening, to determine how much salt and vinegar to add to the words I'm going to say. How to season what I'm going to say to please whoever's listening. I realized, or to protect against whoever's listening. What I discovered after 6 years of watching my mind is I habitually stretch the truth depending on who's out there, and I do it real fast. If you're an actor, it helps. If you're acting a part, you can visualize what the role you're playing would say, right? If you're a translator, it helps you switch if you need to. I can hear Chinese in one ear and come out with English and vice versa, right? Or other languages. So it's, in those cases, you might say it's a benefit, but when it comes time to tell the truth, try to just make it be straight. It's very hard. Because why? I have funny wiring in my speech patterns. That's what I discovered. And so my teacher gave me the name 真实, true and real, so that I would be aware that I do that. Consciousness that I do that was really hard-earned. Because a lot of the words that came out of my mouth before I got my name from my teacher and before I listened to myself, a lot of the words that came out of my mouth were meant to please you. Because my basic motive was to be liked, was to be popular, or to make you laugh, right? To be funny, because funny people got liked. They were popular. That would be good if that was the only motive, was to be popular and liked. But what about when it comes time to tell the truth? People ignored what I said because they knew it wasn't going to be genuine. What about if it's time to make a decision among, something important, like, what are we going to do? We're in trouble. You better decide quick. Should we make that phone call? The bank's going to close in 10 minutes. Do we cash the check or not? You need to decide, who's going to, she's bleeding. Do we take her to the hospital now, or do we try to do it ourselves? In a time like that, I would say something and people would go. Because why? They knew that what was coming out of my mouth was going to be frivolous. It was going to be joke stuff. I was not taken seriously. And only when I got to the second ground in the sutra, after we were reading it at night while bowing to it, did I discover that that's a retribution for qi, false speech, frivolous speech, words meant to please without any heart behind them, words that went before they came out the mouth. That was what I got out of bowing. And you might say, wow, congratulations, that's a lot to be able to see yourself. You might say, how sad, Do you still do it? Did you learn? Well, I would hope, So, how interesting. consciousness of that only came after closing my mouth. But in the darkness, in the wombing part, the activities already rose to please you so that you'd laugh at the things I had to say, so you'd like me more, right? That was the motive. And consciousness is what caught that. So it's when I watched myself do this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, it was like, oh yeah, that's pretty interesting how automatic in my mind that function worked. It's really fast moving and subtle. Boom. The arising of consciousness is tugged along by activity, which is an impulse to tell you, mostly it wasn't a lie, it was exaggeration. I exaggerated a lot. I wanted to make it more and bigger and funnier, and right? Thinking that it'd be better if it was more. So, depending if it was a pretty girl, and I was not like immediately around my friends, where did I come from? I came from Quebec because that's where my father came from, and people from Canada are certainly more interesting, than somebody from Toledo. Right? Oh, I'd like you to meet my Canadian friend. Oui, comment ça va? Bien? Oui? No, Toledo. Ordinary Toledo. Right? Meat and potatoes, green beans, gravy, Toledo. I can't want to be exotic. I want to come from Montreal. Oui, c'est ça. Right? No. But I did that. And my dad was Canadian, I could fake it, Only. So, there you go. Consciousness rises quickly. And consciousness has two kinds of karma. First, how does it go? 一令诸有相续，诸有相续。二于名色作生。Consciousness has two kinds of karma. The first is it allows existence to continue. Second, it tugs along the six senses. Okay, 诸有相续. So existence means there's momentum now. You've brought it into being with the xing, second phase. Consciousness is aware of that, right? And now it has a form. It's got its own shape. There's a trajectory going through. It's kind of got atomic weight at this point. It's really got an intention. It's got momentum at this point. It has momentum. And it tugs along what? Six senses. Six senses arise. Name and form. So it's got a name and a form at this point. And name and form and the six senses are essentially identical. Okay? So, if you were to if you were to write your story here, how would it take shape? If you were to, I just told a story of an awareness that I had of how this works. If what have you seen arising in your mind habitually that comes before thought, and it doesn't have to be, the habit of lying or exaggerating. It could be something really positive. I have a wonderful story. I was in theater in high school, and one of the plays was Damn Yankees, Broadway musical. Damn Yankees, really about baseball, really fun play. And in the chorus, among the dancers, we had a guy named Joe. Joe was what we called a hood. I think in California they're called greasers, right? We call them hoods, which is to say a gang guy, but not really a gang. He just had a very tough start. His dad, I think, was a mechanic when he was sober, and And Joe came along. And he was a real sweetheart. He was a gentle guy. But because he ran with a tough crowd, so Joe got known as a greaser, as a hood. And he was, cut class more often than not. But we had a drama coach, Martha Pinal, Mrs. Pinal. She was a wonderful woman. She could see people's potential. So she needed some dancers and some characters for Damn Yankees. And so she went to Joe, walked up to him at lunch and said, hey, would you be interested in trying out for our play? And of course he went, no, I couldn't do that. He looked at his friends to see what they would think, and they're going, him? No way, And then he said, yeah, I'll try it, So she said, good, I thought you might come to our rehearsal. So Joe came, and sure enough, he had a gift. He could dance, and the first time that anybody had ever noticed him at all or thought that he had any potential or promise, He, mostly after school, you could see Joe out in the parking lot with a hood up and grease on his fingers, So he came, and sure enough, he loved theater. It was just because he had something to do. It was fascinating, We thought he was great. But clearly, Joe, he could fight. He was a tough guy and had a very difficult start. So did the play. It's great. Joe was just super, And we had when the last night we had a cast party. And the cast party was in the basement of a church. It was Toledo, It's pretty much one of the few places we had to meet. So we were in the basement of Monroe Street Methodist Church. And it was a great cast party. There was cake and punch, and everybody's having fun. We're singing and going through. Wasn't it great? When blah, 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 Everybody's there. And Joe was, in the middle and just looking around. And clearly this was a high point for him. And suddenly there was a scream. And we heard, some heavy breathing and something that was really discordant. And everybody's head turned. And underneath the basketball backboard on the floor of the Methodist Church activities room was might have been one of Joe's old gang, but it was a guy in there who had a tire iron. And he was drunk, and he was looking to break heads. He was suddenly very violent, this guy. Nobody knew who he was, how he came in the door, but there he was, and he was throwing this tire iron from hand to hand, smashing on the floor and looking to break a head. He's like this, get out of here, And we're all going, what's this? Joe took 2 strides over and punched the guy on the point of his jaw, and the guy, as he was going down, managed to whack Joe over the head with the tire iron, but he followed him down and got him on the floor with his arm behind him in a police hold, had his face on the ground, and kicked the tire iron away. And at this point, this all took about 3 seconds to happen. And we're all there watching, and we go, oh, okay. So we all the guys finally, come into action to carry the guy out, throw him out the door, lock it, and Joe is bleeding from his head wound. But it was his instinctive action that saved who knows what could have happened in this, high school kids, and this tough dude with a tire iron who was out for blood. And here was our hero, His first reaction was to protect. And he knew what to do and did not hesitate. I'm sure it wasn't conscious in his mind, But he took one step, two steps, and knocked the guy down, disarmed him, took a hit in the process, and then, managed to neutralize the threat just like that. And we all saw this and realized that this was, number one, not our world. Nobody was prepared to respond to sudden violence like that. But that he had genuine courage, and everybody's, estimation of this guy, just like, look what happened, look what he did. He saved us, in the midst of that moment. And so there is, out of ignorance, Joe was ready to respond. And was it habit or what? But, you could, from our Buddhist perspective, he was a Dharma protector. He was a hufa. He had it in his own experience to be able to see that threat, not be paralyzed with fear, but his first reaction was to move, to protect. And he, from that moment, everybody in the story spread, and everybody in the school looked at him with very different eyes, and it was like, wow, I couldn't have done that, It was the thought. And for him it was like, oh, well, I had to do it, had to be done. And I just didn't want the party to stop, he said. Didn't want the party to stop. So that was Joe. He came back the next year, was in the next play, and I lost touch with him. But clearly it was, first of all, it was Mrs. Panal being able to see in this guy this potential to get involved in an activity that on his own, never. He would have fixed cars, until he graduated or didn't graduate. And sure enough, Joe, found his way into theater and graduated. But most of all, it was the esteem that we held for this guy was just, suddenly in the middle of a crowd of high school kids, there was a hero, fearless defense. So that's the consciousness that arises out of instinctual activity, which goes on to create this name and form and the six sense organs. And how do you use it? How do you use it? Maybe in another context, Joe was just a fighter. Maybe he had fought with his brothers or with other gangs. But in this case, because he had earned his way into the caste party, and he didn't want it to stop because of violence. Not a problem. We'll take care of that. You guys continue the party. So you think about, what do we have that we do instinctively? For me, it's exaggerating the truth for effect. Testing to see who's there before I tell you that my truth, chances are it's not true. Why? Because I want to score points instead. That's my motive, right? So who has some instinctive stuff that you don't know why? The answer is, why? 不知道. I don't know why I do that. It's in the dark. But it sure does come up over and over again. And right here is where our lives pass. Because why? Karma is created by that instinct. And only later does it manifest into awareness. Often we just do it and we don't know why. Later we find out what it's called, why I did it, But at the start it's just so fast. Isn't this fascinating? This is the Buddha's peeling the onion of why our lives lead us. When you see somebody, instinctively you hate them. Why? Well, often it's because of past actions. Not always. Sometimes it's what we learn. Later on in these links, there's other kinds of awarenesses that come up, other kinds of loves and hates. But the ones that arise really quickly, right? We say, well, I'll save that one for later. We're running out of time. But what about when you see your, quote, soulmate, right? Star-crossed lovers, right? Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet were not supposed to fall in love. They came from two sides of town. They were from warring families in the city of Verona, right? But they did. Saw each other instantly, fell in love, right? Was it because of right here in the links, right? Activities creates consciousness, creates name and form in the 6 places, the 6 senses. Yeah, this is deep insight into how stuff happens. So what stories do we have to fill in this structure? Stay tuned for next episode of As the World Turns, the Buddha's Wisdom, right? Next week, to be continued. Meanwhile, let's us transfer merit and see if we can't make a better world with our merit and virtue. You have a song sheet, and dedication is there. The last page of our songbook should also give you the dedication. Thank you for resolving that. Okay, please make a wish, and let's send it out as far as our minds can carry. Every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and joy. May kindness find reward, may all who sorrow leave their grief. May this boundless light break the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. All right. Now, something special, which is not so special, just an announcement, which is on Tuesday night, it's time for Tea and Dharma, because next week I'm off to Taiwan. Ordinarily we do the Tea and Dharma night on the last Tuesday, but I'm going to be away for a couple weeks, and so Tea-Ance is moved forward. Tuesday night over on 4th Street at Tea-Ance Tea Shop, 7:30. Topic to be announced. We don't know yet. Stay tuned. We'll find out what we're going to talk about later. David, we haven't gotten you over there for one of those in a long time. Busy, that's, darn it. Well, it's really good tea. Can you bring your gang over? That's the way to double our attendance in one swoop. So, it's really good tea. Maybe you don't know what you're missing. So. Anyway, we'll be talking over there, music, puppets, and some of the world's finest tea. Tonight, let's see, any other announcements? Do we have anything done? Okay. What I want to share with you tonight is a story about the Parliament of World's Religions. Parliament of World's Religions is coming up next year in October, and you all are invited, whether you know it or not. I'm going to let you know about it. The Parliament, let me tell you about it while we set up, because I've got photos that I want to share. And let me just talk as I go. The Parliament happened first in 1893. 1893 in Chicago. It was the World's Fair, called the Columbian Exposition at that time. And there were different parliaments meeting. The Parliament of Commerce, the Parliament of Business, the Parliament of Diplomacy, the Parliament of Philosophy, and they had a Parliament of Religion. And it was a gathering, and of the various parliaments that met, the one in the corner that nobody thought much about was the one that really stuck. It was the Parliament of Religion. It's the one that made the biggest waves, because an Indian Swami named Swami Vivekananda showed up, and the story of how he got there is a story worth telling all by itself. But Swami Vivekananda was this noble individual who was eloquent and magnetic. He wore a turban, and he looked like a prince, and he spoke like a saint, and he was so compelling that they had him speak to larger and larger groups, and everyone who heard him was deeply moved. Beyond Swami Vivekananda, it was the first time that religious leaders from Asia had come to the West to present their religions in their own words. Before the 1893 Parliament, what we knew about Asian religions came from Western scholars who'd gone over there to report back about the way things were done in Asia. Well, here were the Asian religious teachers. There were Zen Buddhists. D.T. Suzuki, the famous Suzuki, was there as a clerk. He wasn't the main speaker. There were, Hindus and Buddhists and Sikhs and Jains and Sikhs. I don't know if the Sikhs were there, but it was a big, big deal. And so Swami Vivekananda really made waves, and people remembered him, and the Vedanta Society got going in America after his presentation. 100 years later in Chicago, they said, that was so good, let's do it again. So the second Parliament happened in 1993, and we were invited to go. Master Hua was invited. We decided not to at the last minute, but probably in hindsight should have gone. Dr. Nakasone went and reported back, and that was my first year at GTU. Then, 6 years later, in Cape Town, Parliament number 3 happened. We did go to that. In 2004, Parliament happened in Barcelona. 2009 in Barcelona, right? 4. Then in 2009, it was in Melbourne, Australia. And we went to that one too. So the DRBA has been to 3 parliaments. And it's the next one, number 5, is coming up. It's coming up in Salt Lake City, interestingly enough. And it's going to be in October of 2015, and I'm going to show you some photos just to give you a sense of what an event it is. Those who go will see sights they have never, ever seen before or imagined possible, because all of the religions of the world will be represented. Religious leaders, ordinary folks, choirs, dancers. His Holiness the Dalai Lama may or may not show up. The woman in the center is an indigenous elder from Australia. Muslims, Buddhists, Sikhs, presentations about Buddhists and Catholics talking together. Presentations about Buddhists and Catholics talking together. Buddhists and Catholics talking together. Funny, weird, strange, creepy Buddhists from Tasmania. That's a story for another time. Look, the culture of Iran. How fascinating. Drink tea, Persian tea, served to you with sweets. Look at the sweets. Oh, yummy, yummy. So, just to give you a sense of the kind of things that happen at parliaments. Punjabi. This is Jian Yue Fasher from Zhongtaishan. That's Father William Skudlarik. There's Jinwo Fasher, Jinwo Sunim. So this is, there's the kind of individual you get to have lunch with in the parliament. So an amazing experience is yours to be had. This is, now, let me show you, I have another one of some faces of friends that we met at the parliament. The kind of thing you see. Whirling dervishes, Sufis, Native American, Iroquois, Joanne Shenandoah, who has been in this hall on 3 different occasions. Jews, Michael Lerner, Rabbi Michael Lerner, here in Berkeley. This is Karen Armstrong, historian, scholar, writer. This is the Langar feast. The Sikhs volunteered to feed all 10,000 people 3 meals a day, and did it. And we took part. You got to wear these funny hats and laugh at each other and eat delicious, yummy, hot vegetarian food 3 times a day. This is a Condomblé believer from Rio de Janeiro. These are Brahma Kumaris, Dadi Janki. She's no longer with us. She is probably as saintly a woman as you'll ever find anywhere. Dervishes. A rock band from... Oh, I know what this is. These are Jews and Palestinians, Israelis and Palestinians, making a rock band together. Pretty amazing. Japanese court dancers. The music was so weird. And on, dancing, you know, these guys. Court music from Japan. What is it? They're playing the sheng from China, Japanese style. Wisdom. Young and old. She's from Australia. Remember her? Right? These are Sikh youth, friends of ours. Charles Gibbs, United Religions. Sarah Talcott. A panel. This is Ramon Panikar, the late. He's a Catholic Hindu. Wise, wise man. Here's the plenary. This is what it looks like at the Parliament. All those people at once. Astounding experience. And conversations you'll never forget. Here's Joanne Shenandoah at Familia Sagrada, this church that's not even finished yet. They've been working on it for a century. She's singing at its sacred music concert before all 10,000 people. Ooh, flamenco. Do I have... You need to hear this. Let's see. Carmen Copas with Pedro. Yes. Okay, let's see if I've got it. I hope that's not just a photo. We want to hear it. Here it is. Okay, people know about, movie. Do you all know about flamenco? Flamenco is dukkha in sound. It's pain. The sound is pain. And she's singing dukkha, dukkha, dukkha. The guitarist is a fabulous, incredible guitar player. Okay. Oh, yeah, and then how do we get the sound up here? I'm glad I found it. Here we go. Got to open it with the right app. This should do it. We'll play it. Should be working. Okay. Okay, here we go. Oh, let's see here. Anyway, this is sacred music. She, Carmen Copas. See. Don't know quite why we can't hear it, but we'll try one more time. The sound is haunting to the extreme. Say again? I did? Did you see it? Okay. Okay, cool. That's what I want. Yeah. Okay. You saw it here? Music? That's Carlos Montoya, that's not it. We're looking for Carmen Copas and David. Should be working? Okay, here we go. No. It's, hold on. Okay. Aha. Here we go. We discovered it. We got it. All right. Now, prepare, because you need to hear this. It's worth waiting for. Yeah. I'll have to sing it for you. 不行，怎么不行? Okay, so now, luckily we live in the internet age. I wonder if, just for fun, because you need to hear. What you're not able to hear is this incredible flamenco. We're in Barcelona, right? Carmen Corpas. And she's singing. Now, yeah, hey. Told you. She's singing this music from her homeland. There's David too. It's not on. that it? Yes. There we go. Oh, now we're going to try. See if you can get my track. Here's what we heard. Cross your fingers. Pure dukkha. People walking in front of me. We're standing out under the stars, outdoors, and listening to this sound, which is gypsy music. They say comes from India through Spain. Oh, here she is. I wonder if she sings here. Yes, oh, here we go. Oh, continuing. Hey. Much older now. So that's flamenco. So that's just so you could hear that. What an incredible experience it is to be in a group like this. So now, this section is 568 photographs. So I hope you brought your sleeping bags and your alarm clocks, because we're going to look at every single damn photograph. No, we're not. Here we are in Montserrat. Montserrat is the comb tooth mountain. And it's a pre-Parliament event, a week at the Benedictine monastery called Montserrat. And you can see this is a Catholic monastery. Here is our pre-Parliament group. Here is Rita Semmel. Those of you who were with me on Tuesday will recognize Rita right here. She's now 92. Here's Don Fru, who was there on Tuesday. Our group stayed together all these years. And this monastery has a room that reminded me nothing so much as the Avatamsaka Sutra. And it had, this is a Hindu girl from, a Muslim girl from Pakistan who just got married. I followed her on Facebook still to this day. She had red shoes. Look at her red shoes here. Now, somebody's going to say, I thought you didn't notice shoes. Well, her shoes are very red. So, anyway, we met Guanyin Bodhisattva at Montserrat Monastery. It was the Blessed Virgin, but by all, and here's the kind of thing you get to do at the Parliament. You get to sit down with people and talk from all over the world. I met friends from Africa who are friends to this day there. And here's the church. 1 million pilgrims go up this mountain to this monastery every year. Our rooms are right inside the monastery. Incredible experience. Cats as well. We need to go quickly through this. So, circles. This young woman had never been out of her village before. She lived by the lake, the shores of Lake Victoria, got her water from the lake. She came to give testimony about pure water and told her story. And she so moved some of these women that they wanted to stay in touch, and they brought her to school in the U.S., St. Louis. Incredible experience. But here's Dr. Nakasone. This is a panel that we gave about, I'm taking the pictures, that's why you don't see me. Here's the Langar. There's Hung Liangshi. Here's Hung Yinshi in a funny hat. She loves these photos, of course. This is Joanne Shenandoah's husband, Doug George Ganantillo. He is a Mohawk Indian from upstate New York, meeting with an indigenous shaman from Chile. And Sister Jayanti of the Brahma Kumaris. David Rounds. Here's Esty, Jonathan, Susan Rounds. Here's Sam Halsey. Stacy right there. Yeah. The future Jin Dashirma. Sally Maye, Jason, Dana. Now, this is URI. She's from Finland. There's Sandy. She's a Zoroastrian. She's a Muslim from Germany. This is a Finnish disc jockey, fundamentalist Lutheran, who Goji and I went to stay at her cabin in Gokuk on a lake in Finland after that. Familia Sagrada, this incredible church. Joanne Shenandoah singing. Yoshu Ting, Brahma Kumari's sister Gita. He is from Ethiopia, Musi Hailu. He went on to become Vice President of United Religions. I nominated him. So here's the plenary session. You see these are all mixed, right? Okay, this is Jinwol Sunim. This is Jose and his brother. Here's our gang. This is a Sikh youth, the Langar tent. This is Jose's parents. That's quite a moment. There we go. He never thought he would be eating in a Sikh tent, eating vegetarian. But there he is, having a wonderful time, despite himself. Barcelona, look at that, great city. Oops. This is Fitzgerald, the cellist, playing for His Holiness. He made his cello sound like a bomb and like peace. This is Masanko Banda, leading everybody in drumming. Ho ho. His sister was president of Malawi, Joyce. Wrote a song for the event. What is that? A concert on the subway. Going home after our pocket was picked. Here's a group, right? Here's Hung Yin-shir's dad and mom. Here's an unknown gentleman with a long beard. How about that? The camera row. Here's our entire group. Wang Chunyun, right? The painter from San Jose. So we had one of our programs, one of the things we offered was paintings of religious leaders. Here's our girl from the shores of Lake Victoria. She went on and had an incredible experience. Oh, there's What's his name from Rio? I forget his name. Flavio. And his girlfriend's name was Flavia. This is a Native American young woman who, whoa, brilliant, was going to carry on her tribe's wisdom, everyone hopes. Oh my goodness. Buddhism. Jonathan. Familia Sagrada. It's an amazing church. So, okay, we could go on forever. Oh, you need to see this. This painter, Wang, in San Jose, had just on his own in China, painted 100 portraits of religious leaders from around the world, just using pictures. They were so amazing and so powerful that the Parliament gave us an entire hallway to put them up. Here's the painter. This is our German Muslim. So it was, we really contributed that time to the Parliament. And as a result, got these memories that will last a lifetime. Look who's here. Jane Goodall. People had a chance to talk with her and meet her monkey. She has a monkey that follows her wherever she goes, right? And so, quite an experience. All right. Now, the punchline to all of this is that the next Parliament is going to happen, and should you think this is something you might want to take part in, learning how to dance Brazilian style, ho ho ho, pretty amazing dancing, then you need to register. Because if you register, you get, especially if you're a student, you get the cheap price. If you wait, the price will even double or more. So, for example, right now, between now and December, the price of registration, just registration, is $189. But you get to go for a week, and it's the gold card. You get to take part in everything. If you wait, it will become $300. If you wait until July, it's $500 to register. So there's a financial incentive to register now, should you decide you want to take part. If you want to learn more about it, there's Max. There we go. There's a good image to hold, that's right. If you want to learn more, we would be happy to fill you in, to answer all your questions. Here is, you don't have to wait for us. Go to Council for a Parliament. Council for a Parliament of the World's Religions. www.parliamentofreligions.org. That's the place to go. parliamentofreligions.org. And what we want, here we go. 2015 Parliament, Salt Lake. Here it is. So go to parliamentofreligions.org. You'll get all the stories. There's a pre-Parliament event in Chicago. We probably won't go to Chicago. There's a newsletter. Here's how you register. Now, the way to get the cheapest is to go as a group. We have a group. But you need to, if you go with us, we need to, that might be a good idea, it might not be a good idea for you. So talk to, actually, do people know Sandy? Sandy is right here, she's got her hand up. She can tell you more about it. You wanting to go with us doesn't mean you get to go with us, right? You might want to start your own group, because there are advantages and disadvantages. If you go with us, you gotta behave yourself. You gotta be like a good with the monks and a nun. Not so much fun. You might be much, much better off on your own, but we can certainly hang together, eat together, but traveling as a group, I've been to 3 of them, and you don't want to necessarily immediately go with us. So come and talk to us. Talk to me if you want about the Parliament, and it's something that if you decide to go, you will thank me. There is nothing else in the world quite like it, and it's an amazing experience. So that's what I wanted to share with you, and this time next year it'll be over, and I'll have a bunch of new photographs, and I'll be telling stories. So, okay, any questions right away about this? Anything people want to ask right off the bat? If not, next week, we'll see you on Tuesday at Tian. Next Saturday, Dharma Master Jin Chuan, and I believe, and Jin Fosher will be here talking about the Avatamsaka. Let's bow to the Buddhas. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Hua Yen Ji Hua Yen Hai Fo Pu San Da Fang